right, well, welcome everybody. Hopefully everyone had a nice lunch, got to see the vendors a little bit. Today, we're going to talk about CSR, Secret Shopper Missed Sales Opportunity. A lot of us are in our agencies and saying, you know, how do we make the phone ring? And there's so much more business inside of our own book of business that we miss out on a lot of things. We get on the phone, and it's like we're not even listening to what the person's saying because we're thinking about the next thing we want to say. And so we want to kind of show you some ideas. Peggy's been phenomenal with our agency and opened our eyes to a lot of things. So we thought this would be a great class for everyone to listen into and then take this back to your staff. And hopefully it'll bring up a lot of great opportunities for you. So again, this is a Secret Shopper Missed Sales Opportunity. We are supposed to post this up there. Wear a mask. We'll go to the next screen. Just real quick, a little bit about myself. My name is Dirk Zeigler. My wife and I own Zeigler Insurance and Financial Services up in Northern California. We've been an independent agent for about 6 years. Prior to that, we were a farmer's agent for 10 years. We're not a huge office. We've got about 5 total staff, and we're mixed between almost 50-50 personal and commercial. We started with HawkSoft in 2016, I think, and have loved it ever since. Taught several different classes, and then I'll kind of let Peggy go into herself.
Hello, I'm Peggy Corbett. I own Agency Transformation. I own my own agency for 28 years. I've been using HawkSoft for about 24 of those years. Had the opportunity to sell my agency 5 years ago and came aboard as an independent consultant for HawkSoft agents. Been working with Dirk and Beth for about 9 months.
Yeah,
now.
9 months now. So this, I don't want to have to go through and read every screen, but you know, what are we looking at trying to do? And we're talking about best practices and, like I said before, missed opportunities and exposures and gaps. Again, this is one of those things where I know I find myself when I'm on the telephone listening to somebody, I'm already thinking about that next question, and I'm not necessarily listening to everything they say, or some of the cues that you know, an individual calling in is giving us in terms of potential buying opportunities. So again, our cross-sell opportunities. We want to make sure we're meeting all our clients' expectations and address objections and using HawkSoft CMS Pipeline to its full potential. So there's a lot of information that will go into this. One of the things that we're going to do today that you'll see, we're going to listen to an actual phone call. How many people have voice over IP phone systems? So a lot of people. So one thing I learned today in an earlier class, I didn't realize, Chris Paradiso's office, they actually take every single phone call and it's at your availability, and drop and drag it into the log note itself. And that's been great for E&O and all sorts of other things. So I know one of the big things, my aha moment's going to be on Monday is guess what we're going to start doing. But we're going to listen to a phone call. This is an individual that came on board the end of last year. This is actually in our agency. She was still just being trained and so forth. And we planned it with Peggy. We had an individual call into our office and play the role of a client. And so what we'd like to do today is have you listen to this phone call. We're going to be passing out in just a second a questionnaire that kind of covers, we want you to listen to the phone call and answer these questions like, hey, did she good job? Did we pick up the phone in the first couple rings? Was she listening for the clues? And at the end of it, we're going to kind of take a little survey and we'll talk about the phone call and see how many things you think this person missed. And or then as you start to listen to us talk, you'll start to see maybe some other things that you didn't hear. And again, this isn't to shame anybody. I got full consent from our staff to do this. This is just saying when we listened to this phone call the first time, my wife and I were like, oh, yeah, she's new. She missed a few things. But then as we saw the report from Peggy, we're like, oh yeah, she also missed this and missed this. And it was just subtle little clues in these phone calls that I think us as agency owners and whatnot, that we can work with our staff in having them listening and being more in tune for what people are trying to say.
How many of you people listen to yourself on the phone? How many of you listen to your staff on the phone? Okay, it's eye-opening. And I think it was eye-opening for the Zeiglers when they actually heard this call play back to them.
Yeah, and you didn't see it, but only like 2 or 3 people raised their hands. So again, this is a great, and almost everybody raised their hand saying they have voice over IP. So if you take one thing back from this class is go back and listen to some of those things. One of the big things in our office is, we need to inspect what we expect. A lot of people say, well, we need to make changes. We got to do this, we got to do that. But then if we're not holding not only ourselves, but if we're not holding staff accountable, we're never going to get better. You know, we're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So hopefully this will be a little bit of a tool. What we'll do is, should we pass those out now?
Sure.
I guess if you want to pass them out. And then the next one we're going to do is we're going to start going into the call. So this is just kind of a brief setup. So they're calling in. Initially, they just said, hey, I'm calling in for an auto quote. They're relocating. They're referred by husband's client, baby. They're looking for auto insurance. And they currently have limits of 50, 100, 50. And then as you'll hear, you'll start seeing this is the wife and husband, some information about them, some other little clues, and then their different deductibles. Wait till she gets to the back of the room. And there's no right or wrong answer, obviously, for this whole thing. So just so you know, this actual sheet is available for you to download after the presentation. It's on the website, along with a few other things that Peggy, some best practices that she does in her consulting work. There's like three or four different documents that you guys can pull down and use them at your convenience and hopefully implement into your own staff's way of doing things. So like I said, as we listen to the phone call, we'd like you to just, you don't have to, but it'd be nice, go down through the survey, see what you think, how the individual did, and then we'll kind of share our experience based on what Peggy found from that. So you got to start it if you don't know how.
Didn't get that.
It's okay. So we'll go down to here. Whoops.
This call is being recorded. If you do not wish to be
It's about a
recorded,
7 or 8
please
minute
disconnect at
recording.
this time.
Zeigler Insurance, this is Kayla. How may I help you?
Hi, Kayla. My name is Stephanie. I was wondering if I could get a quote from you.
Yeah, sure. What kind of quote were you needing?
An auto quote?
Auto? Okay. Did you want to do homeowners as well, or you just have your autos?
We're in the process of buying a home right now.
Okay, so later then. Alrighty. And how did you hear about us, Stephanie?
A friend of my husband's coworker, or my cousin's coworker, referred us over to you guys.
Okay. Let's see. Would you happen to know their name?
No, I can't remember off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
Okay, that's no problem.
I can ask him when he gets home, though.
Okay, sounds good. And what was your last name, Stephanie?
Ryan, R-Y-A-N.
All right. And is Stephanie, is that spelled with a P-H and a Y, or is it with a F and an I-E?
Thanks for asking. It's just regular, S-T-E-P-H-A-N-I-E.
All right. Okay. Perfect. Want to make sure we get that right. And let me see. Stephanie, would it be okay if I took your email down and sent you the questions we typically ask for getting auto insurance quotes, or do you prefer over the phone?
If you can do some over the phone, that'd be great. I don't mind you sending me the form as well, or giving you my email address.
Okay, let's see.
It's hard with me to find time with the new baby, so as much as I can get done right now would be great.
Okay, and let me see. Do you have the VINs for the autos?
I don't have those on me.
Okay. What are the year, makes, and models?
I drive the 2018 Audi A6.
Audi A6. Okay. And then the other car?
My husband drives the 2015 Range Rover.
And would you happen to know the odometers?
I don't. I can find out later if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And let me see. And what is your date of birth, Stephanie?
My date of birth is January 17th, 1985.
And then what was your husband's name?
Matthew.
M-A-T-T-E-W?
Yeah, and just standard spelling.
I'm sorry, was there an H in it or no H?
Yes, there's an H. M-A-T-T-H-E-W.
All right. And Ryan as the last name, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And his date of birth?
August 22nd, 1986.
Okay, and let me see. And what was your driver's license number?
You know what? Hold on. I have to go look for that.
Okay, that's fine. For now, I could just go with this, and let me see.
Okay, great.
And I'll just send you an email that you can respond to later with the additional questions.
I'm not as prepared as I thought I was.
It's okay. Let's see. And what are the uses for the car? Do you guys commute, or do you just use them for pleasure use?
Well, he uses his for work to commute back and forth, and I use mine for work, but I own my own firm, so it's not like I go very far.
Okay, so you just is your firm locally, like you live?
Yeah, it's out of my house.
Okay, so we'll just say pleasure use then, since it's not so far.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, and what was the estimated annual mileage on each car?
10,000. He works really close to home too, so.
Okay, perfect. That's always nice.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I need to ask? Oh yeah. Do you know what coverages you have currently, or which ones you would like?
We're looking for a $500 deductible.
Okay, so you want a deductible of $500, and what liability limits were you guys looking into, or did you know if you had already?
I'm not too sure what we had. I think it was like 150. Is that right?
It's 5,100 sounds more right. But if you are looking into owning a home soon, we do suggest that you get a little bit higher coverages, just in case anything happens, you're covered properly, and that way they can't go after your home. Does that make sense? So let's see. So I was thinking maybe we usually like to quote, depending on how much, depending on your needs, we usually quote with 100, 300, or 250, 500. Would you like me to just prepare two different options for you?
That would be great, please.
All right. Let me see. And then what about, did you want any medical coverage?
I think we're okay with that at this time.
Okay, let's see. And then, let me see. I think that may be it for that. Did you want any, like, roadside assistance or rental reimbursement or anything like that?
Thanks for asking. He actually already has AAA, so we're good.
Oh, perfect. That's great. All right, let me see. So I think that's it for now. So I'll just go ahead and get some contact information from you. What's a good number to reach at?
You can give me a call at my home number, which is 805-374-8493.
Okay. And your email?
It's stephRyan93035@yahoo.com.
93035, you said?
Right.
At Yahoo?
At Yahoo.
All right. Let me
Do you guys do home insurance?
Yes, we do home, auto, umbrella, life, and like boats and other toys like that. We do a bunch of stuff.
Because yeah, we're moving to your guys' area.
Okay, perfect, exciting. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll start working on a quote for you. Since it is kind of later in the day, I'm thinking I'll probably have something out to you by tomorrow. Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll start working on those quotes, and I'll send you that email just for that additional information. And as soon as you get me that back, I can enter that, and that'll make the quote more accurate to you. And yeah, is there anything else I can do for you, Stephanie?
That was a lot of help. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. And just want to make sure you have my email address right, because it's easy to get mixed up. You have StephRyan93035@yahoo.com?
Yeah, and I spelled Steph is STEPHRYAN for Ryan.
Yes.
All
okay.
right, perfect.
Yes,
all right, good.
And we can go ahead and buy the quote right now without having the email or without the information from the email if we wanted to.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Are we able to go ahead and just get the quote now without the email information? Can we get a rough idea by chance?
Yeah, so it'll be a rough idea, but just without the driver's license numbers and the VIN information, it'll pull in different information off your driver's record and the cars. So that it'll just depend on that, but it'll just be a basic quote.
Okay, that's fine. I'll go ahead and take that if that's possible. That way I just kind of have an idea of what to expect.
Yeah, and I forgot to ask, are there any lien holders on the car?
No.
Okay, perfect. Okay, all right. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll get working on that for you. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Thanks. Bye.
So I cringe every time I listen to that phone call on how many things were missed. And honestly, after that phone call and after working, this is a shameless plug for Peggy, but working with her, creating the right process and procedures has been eye-opening and dramatic. But anyways, so next slide, I guess we'll start there.
Sure. So tell us what you think. Areas where
It's okay, be honest.
Yeah, and this is, again, not shaming anything.
No.
In the back?
I heard 3 at least. Buying a new home, new baby, which is an opportunity for life insurance.
Great.
And then also she has a business in her home, there's a opportunity.
Bingo. So that is 3. There's actually 5 opportunities that we identified. Does anyone notice she never even asked what she's quoting auto insurance, and she said she was moving to the area, but she never asked for the address. How do you give an auto quote without an address? So that was a little eye-opening for us too. So yes, she missed the account round. Anyone else recognize anything else? Okay. She did try to upsell the limits, and she did offer higher limits of liability on that, but she didn't educate. I mean, she briefly explained that when you're buying a home, you should have this. Why? She's a brand new homeowner. She doesn't know that she needs to protect her assets. She didn't offer an umbrella. If you noticed, she's buying a home, and if she would have looked up the home, I think it was like a $1.5 million home. She drives an Audi and a Range Rover. I mean, she's probably got some assets. So not offering an umbrella was also a missed opportunity. We talked about the fact that it's a new home, and there's a new baby, and there should have been a cross-sell. If she would have asked, she had a CPA firm that she ran out of her house.
I got one more.
Sure.
Valuables.
Val-
Probably has an engagement ring, she's probably got it, if she's got Audi, she's probably got some other assets.
There you go. I didn't pick that one up, so thank you very much. Yes, in the back. Yep. So lots and lots of missed opportunities there, and the idea is as Dirk pointed out, we just get really busy and almost become order takers. Okay, you don't work at McDonald's. Okay, your idea is to educate and serve your clients, and I just feel that that was part of the area that was missed. We also took track of just client opportunities that she missed. So there were 2 opportunities to educate I talked about. We also have to talk about your agency's value. Okay, so she asked if it was referred, but she never told them about the Zeigler program for what they do when people are referred to them. And they have a very nice referral program. Who has a referral program in here? Okay, we want to make sure your people are telling everyone about it. The other thing is life events.
Keep going. No, I'm going to
Oh.
put it in the presentation.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Life event, she did say congratulations, but that's one of the things that when you find out that someone is buying a car, someone's buying a home, someone just had a baby, we need to be excited. We need to be involved in our clients' lives. The idea also is to explore. And what I mean by explore is know what your clients' needs are. One of the flyers that you're going to get is, I call it your every quote call. Okay, there are certain things that you should cover in every quote call. Okay, one of them, not only how did you hear about our agency, but why are you shopping? Everyone's going to tell you price, but beyond that, what else has been their experience? What else is driving them? Did they have a bad claims experience? Did they have a bad experience with the agent? Finding out why people are shopping is probably one of the first things that you should find out when you're talking to new quotes.
Yeah, has anybody ever heard of the individual Randy Schwantz, the book called The Wedge? Some people are nodding their head. Great book. If you've never read it, I highly suggest it. But kind of along what Peggy was just saying is, you know, yes, we want to become the trusted advisor, but some of these people have been with people for 5, 10, 20 years, with an agent, and they just never really looked into things. And so they might have a relationship or they might not, but the question is, how do we drive a wedge between them and us? And like Peggy said, we need to, as agencies, we need to tell them about the Zeigler Insurance way or whoever's way it is in your office, differentiate ourselves, making sure they understand that, yes, we're collecting premium, we want to make money, but we're here to protect your assets, and we're making sure our job is to be the pessimist in a sense to make sure that you've got the right coverages. And most people, as a new homeowner in this case, has no clue what they do or don't need. Especially now, this is probably going to be their biggest asset they own or they ever had. And they don't realize they need to have better limits. They don't understand, why an umbrella policy could be an option for them to protect, again, their biggest assets and have liens put against their house. In California, people can sue you for up to 10 times your earnings or something like that, for up to 40% of your earnings over 10 years in an umbrella case, potentially. So having the right coverages in place and making sure you're providing value to that end client. And one of the other things that we did immediately after, well, not immediately, after realizing how many mistakes we had, you notice how she was kind of fumbling around with questions and things like that. And that, to me, is that going to give you a vote of confidence? Like, hey, really, I'm refer to this guy or gal, and they're kind of jumping all over the place. So, HawkSoft has a lovely tool that we created, external tools. I mean, whether you are paper or paperless, where we actually have quote sheets now where they can literally pull it up right there on the screen and just go right down the, and actually one of the quote sheets that Peggy gave us actually has, as you're going down through the quote, you're asking like their name, address, phone number, and then all of a sudden it is pop up with this little thing. Tell them about your agency or about our agency. Again, just making that connection with them.
How many of you use a comparative rater for your personal lines? Okay. Is your team using that? Is that your intake? Is your comparative rater? So I do this a lot. I do a lot of mystery shopping, and I can usually tell what comparative rater somebody's using by what questions they're asking me, because I feel like I'm literally, they're an order taker, and we don't want it to be that way, okay? Like I said, you don't work at McDonald's. We want to make it a conversation. We want to get them to trust us, and as Kayla was doing, she was fumbling a bit, and then she even at one point said, what else do I need to ask you? That doesn't give you the warm and fuzzy, feeling that this person is going to have your best interests at heart. One of the things when I did have my agency, part of our quote process, we asked about, so what are you doing this weekend? Well, it may sound like a dumb question, but you might uncover, hey, we're going up to our cabin that we have up in Big Bear Lake. Oh, we're going to take our boat out on the lake. Those are all insurable interests. So by asking people what they're doing, what are their hobbies, not only does it fill time while you're possibly data inputting, but you're getting more information without them even knowing about it.
Going into my next notes here.
Sure. Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. So these are yeah.
Real quick to repeat the question.
I will
So an
repeat it.
online question was, where do we access the quote forms? Are they online or are they within the agency?
So you can use a comparative rater, obviously, but no, HawkSoft doesn't have quote forms. I have developed certain quote forms, and I have some samples up here if anyone wants to see for homeowners or commercial quotes. And again, it's just if you're going to be intaking the information, you can either have it printed up, and if you just want to handwrite it out, that's great. You can also use it. Who's familiar with working documents in HawkSoft? Not a lot of hands. Guess what? I'm teaching a class on working documents in about 2 hours, if you want to come see a snippet. So a working document is a fillable PDF. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. It can be a Word document that you keep in the client's file. You take it from attachments, right mouse click, make it into a working document. Now you can fill it out in the client's file as you're doing it. As Dirk alluded, some of the quote sheets that I used in my own agency have light bulbs next to things. So if you're asking them a question about something, it reminds you, oh, this is a good segue to ask them about this. So again, I have some samples up here if you want to come up and look at it.
Yeah, so like in our office, we have some staff members who like paper and some staff members that, they have to have, they got to write it down. Other ones, they want the fillables. And so what we did, like I said, we can, if we have time at the end, if you have interest in it, that's fine. But we created external tools, And literally those are links on the left-hand side of HawkSoft, and that can go to anywhere. We have them for like Google, we have them for Zillow, we have them for all sorts of stuff, but you can link it to a website or a document. And so we actually have all our different quote forms. We get a lot of referrals from a veterans hall. And so we do event policies all the time. And we all know pretty much all the questions anymore, but we've got now a form. You just click on the link, and you just break down the questions, and we're done within 5 minutes. And again, keeps it nice and organized. And as Peggy indicated, working documents, if you haven't figured that out yet, the light bulb went off for us a little while back. It's a great tool. If you can just take any PDF file, you drag it into HawkSoft, you make it a working document. In other words, you now make it a fillable document. You fill it in, do what you got to do, and you just kind of close it back up, and it actually logs in who had it open last, that sort of stuff, and then another user in your office can go in, open it back up. If we missed a piece of documentation or someone needed, had to call us back with a birth date or something like that, and we can open that document up, and now it's all right there inside of HawkSoft. So it's just, again, for the external tools, or it's really whatever you all feel comfortable with, obviously, whatever you have in your office. My biggest thing is have a process in place. She's hammered that into our heads over and over. Have a process that anybody can use and be consistent. That helps not only with E&O, but helps so a new person comes in, but specifically it really helps just overall flow from your office to make sure everybody's doing the same thing systematically.
One other comment about the call. Did you notice that? Oh, it'll be up on the board.
It was, yeah, slide 2, I think, also did have her information on there as well.
And we also have a booth in the hall if you want to just come chat with us. We'd be happy to talk to you. One of the other things that I notice in the call is, and I find this when I do a lot of mystery shopping, is agents just want to send you a form, okay? They're calling you for a reason. They're calling you for expertise. If they wanted to fill something out online, they'd go onto geico.com. They would go onto one of the carriers where that's what you can do it. They're calling a broker for a purpose to get your expertise. And you'll notice at the end, Stephanie asked 2 or 3 times, can I just get this quote right now? And if you're using a comparative rater, the answer should be yeah. It shouldn't be yeah, it's late in the day, I can't get it to you tomorrow, until tomorrow. Which, by the way, and Dirk and Beth, cover your ears, I never got a quote. She never sent me a quote. Yeah. So that was kind of the puncher that we through all this. Yes?
My question is one of the problems we run into using a comparative rater to do, like you're saying, is that, yeah, I can give her a quote, but it'll be so wrong compared to what the rates are that I'm selling her on something that's not real.
Okay. So the question was, if you're using a comparative rater, that the rates may not be accurate. And you're right. And some of them need to have the VIN number and the driver's license numbers to run Clue or whatever it is that you're running credit in some states. But you're at least getting somewhat of a ballpark if you know that you're running it through 5 or 6 different companies and that Travelers is at the top of the list, and get yourself over to Travelers, maybe get the quote directly on the platform. A lot of comparative raters also give you, I mean, I'm from California, we use Vertifor FSC, gives you real-time rates. So I don't know in other states if that's just not, we're shaking our head, not an option. Yes?
A lot of that is during the selling of the agency and what you're able to provide for them in the setup of the call when they first talk to them. But then when it comes to the comparative rater, when you tell them you're quoting Safeco, Progressive, Nationwide, you give them all those lists of carriers, you can say, look, I'm going to hit every single one of these and I'm going to get you the best rate that I can. I'm going to call you back by, let's say, 315, 317, whatever number you come up with. And that way, you keep them on the line for you. They're not going to call Allstate. They're not going to call all those other companies as long as you have it set up during the course of that call. And that's really good.
No, it's a great point. It's setting expectation with the client. That's really what it is. And I think that's what a lot of us don't do that. A lot of us, we know today the consumer wants everything now, and 30 minutes ago. But at the same time, we as agents and agency owners, CSRs, we need to be proactive and not reactive in the sense is that, it's okay to ask the client. I know some people may disagree with this and say, you got to get it done within the next hour and get it out to them. Well, if you're a smaller shop, you might not have the bandwidth to be able to do that. So it's very fair to ask the client, hey, is it okay if they call in the morning, is it okay if I get this back to you by 3 o'clock today? And darn it, you bet, and they say yes. 95% of the time, they're saying, yeah, no problem, whatever. Someone may say, oh, no, I need it right now. Well, okay, then we try to figure that out. Or if it's late in the day, hey, is it okay if I get back to you by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? Because I'm going to go shop all the day. You came to an independent broker for a reason. You didn't call State Farm to get one quote. You called us to go out and get the best options available. And again, we want to make sure we're protecting you and giving you the best value for your dollar. So it's going to take us a little bit of time to go out to all our carriers.
And also go off of that, it's using the name, which you mentioned that you need to have that as well to talk to them, but also give your name at least 3 times during the call, so that's a building of trust.
That's actually something I tell all of my agents, that you should use someone's name 3 times in a conversation. It's been proven. It really bonds them to you. And to Dirk's point, if you're going to say, I'm going to call you by 3, call them by 3. Even if you don't have the quote, you have to meet that expectation, or they're going to lose faith in you.
No, absolutely. That's a good point. I thought I saw another hand. No, okay. All right, I'm trying to look in the note if we hit all the ones that she missed.
The only other thing that I had on here, so when I did the grading of this, so what you have in front of you is what I actually use when we do these phone calls. And there's a possibility of 90 points off of this sheet, and Kayla hit 49 points. Okay, so you guys do the math and see what kind of grade that came out to be. So, I'm sorry?
F.
You didn't get a quote.
It was an
Yeah.
F minus. Yeah.
But like I said, it was a huge learning experience for us, and I would urge all of you to pull a phone call once in a while. You know, and it's not picking on the staff person or anything. It's just going to make us better because of what one 8-minute phone call that came into the office that was fake, what that did for our agency going forward has been night and day. We're getting the information the first time. We're getting all the information for the most part. We all know there's some people that won't give us all the information right up front. But I mean, we're able to be more proactive, more accurate, and close more business by continuing, like you said, make those relationships, using their names. And they sound very simple, and it sounds, you know, like, well, really, that doesn't work. No, it actually does. Its statistics prove it. Yeah. And it's just a matter of implementing it, and then, like I said, being accountable to doing that all the time. And it's very difficult. There's a lot of, size agencies that have larger staffs or smaller staffs, but sometimes that's the hardest thing, is holding each other accountable. But if we don't, then we're never going to get better. We're never going to grow. I mean, we all became independent agents because there's no ceiling. We can do whatever we want and thrive in an incredible opportunity that's in front of us. But do we want to be that hamster on a wheel just going around and around and doing the same thing over and expecting different results? Or we can actually take a step back and really evaluate what we're doing and making changes. Sometimes they're tough changes. And you know what? It could be in this situation, I'll be honest, and we were kind of, hey, is this working? We start seeing these things, but we actually had to kind of look ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what, that's our fault. We didn't train her properly. So I can't get mad at someone for not doing their job if we didn't give them the tools, the resources, and the training to be able to do it. So by having a repetitive or repeatable process in place, I can't say enough about why that's so important in agencies today.
And if you haven't done it, I mean, if you're not listening to phone calls, role-playing is amazing. We did that a lot in our agency. Well, I would actually sit down and ask one of my team, give me a quote. And I would throw up every objection that I could to them and see how they could overcome it. I mean, that's part of the sales process as well. And I'm not sure if that's in one of the next slides, but it's overcoming those objections. Okay. Heard Chris Paradiso, if you guys aren't familiar with Chris Paradiso, he's just a wonderful human being. But he told me that there's a difference between customer service and customer improvement. And I had to sit and think about that. And it's totally true that we owe it to our clients. And sometimes people think that cross-selling is kind of a dirty word or something like that. But we are doing our best service by cross-selling our clients. We're identifying gaps and exposures in their coverages. One of the things when I set up account reviews, which I also did for Dirk and Beth, is when you're doing those account reviews, is looking at the client as a whole before you get them on the phone, and before you even talk to them. So you're not rushed and you're not trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Is the account review that I give give to my clients, it actually has a space. Identify one exposure and one policy that they're missing, and it's very simple to do to put into your everyday workflow.
One of the things that Peggy commented on, we in our office, we offer everyone an umbrella policy. How many people offer umbrella policies? Everybody's hand should be up. I don't care if you ask or not.
How many people document that you're offering an umbrella policy?
So this is going to be a real quick side. I'll tell you a reason why we offer it. A very good friend of ours a couple years ago, school teacher, husband just retired as a firefighter, living life, having a great time, that sort of stuff. She's driving to school. She was not speeding. She was not texting. Sun blinded her. She hit a little girl in the crosswalk. On her way to school, which was even worse. Her and her sister were in the crosswalk. She pulled her out, tried to pull her out, little girl up and over the whatever. She made it. It was a lot of touch and go, but the umbrella policy paid out. And what's the retention on a policy, in an umbrella? Maybe it could be $500 or $2,500, depending on the carrier, that sort of stuff. But $2,500, and God, no, I mean, I'm not taking away what happened to the little girl, but I'm just talking about from the insurance standpoint. I mean, it changed people's lives forever. But as independent agents, that's our job. Our job is to minimize their risk. And in this case, we could actually sleep at night, in a sense, you know, knowing that we did right by the customer. But what I was getting to with that is when Peggy mentioned, she said, oh, we're buying a house. If she would have looked up the address, it was a $1.4 million house. If she would have kind of paid attention, we've got a Range Rover, we've got an Audi. Do you really think $1 million was going to be enough coverage for them? Probably not. So it's, again, it's listening for those subtle, silent clues that can tell us, hey, again, it's upsell. I don't know what the direct correlation is in terms of statistics, but I think we all know a monoline policy sticks with us, what, 10, 15% of the time for a year. You go to 2 policies, it's up to 30, 40%. 3 policies, you know, they're going to stick with you, you know, for 3 to 5 years. It's just exponentially higher. So that's one of the things that we've tried to do. And I think now 70% of our business has an umbrella policy that we wrote. So, and that's not bragging. That's just saying it's low-hanging fruit. You know, we're going into our own book and finding a lot of extra business. And like Peggy said, you go out there, oh, I'm going boating for the weekend. Oh, we're going out on our jet skis. Or we're going to our second home. All those things are clues. They don't even realize you're uncovering this stuff. And it's just creating more sales opportunities for you as an agency.
And through your sales and retention, how many people are using sales and retention? Ooh, not a lot. Okay, in your sales and retention, it shows you how many policies are coming up for renewal in the next 60, 90, 120 days that have auto, no home, home, no auto, and no umbrella. It's right there in your HawkSoft. It's reading your data. And then from there, you can use a blast email. How many people are using blast email through HawkSoft? Just a couple more hands. So HawkSoft has a feature where you can take that list and you can literally blast email out to everyone on that list some sort of a solicitation. That solicitation creates a log note, attaches it into the client's file, and then you can even suspend it to someone to follow up on it. We use blast email in our office right around Christmas and then after Valentine's Day. And it was a solicitation for scheduled jewelry primarily. We had a loss. One of my producers took something over on a broker of record. Shame on him, he didn't underwrite it. The woman was with us for 3 years and then had about a $200,000 jewelry loss. Obviously, it wasn't covered. Went to an E&O, and I was found not responsible because I had sent her out 3 blast emails explaining scheduled jewelry. So these things not only are sales tools, but they're huge E&O.
Yeah, that's a great point. I can't stress enough. We all talk about it, but documentation, 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 and generate everything from inside of HawkSoft. We get lazy. I know we do in our office, but we get lazy. Send the email from HawkSoft so it's documenting it. Drag the responses back in or the phone calls. Having that documentation, I mean, I hear it from our business coach, but Peggy, everyone you talk to is, you know, unfortunately people like to sue people and blame you for everything else. And no, I called you last week and told you to cancel the car. Or I told you to put full coverage on it. I told a story at lunch today where a guy came in, a former producer wrote a policy that had, you know, only had liability only, and he called in just screaming at me saying, oh, I went and changed insurance because you had such a crappy policy for me and blah, blah, blah. I was like, really? I said, well, let's see. We went back into the email, and he sent us, all I want is liability only. I want the cheapest thing possible. And I sent it to him. I never heard back from him. But again, that's just one of those things that we can do to protect ourselves and protect our agencies, is making sure we have that. Whether you go to, and Peggy can share this a little bit more too, is utilizing HawkLink as well and going out to the carrier sites from there. Again, it documents everything, because she can tell you about an E&O claim, and I'll let her tell you that if it wasn't for them going through HawkLink and showing, hey, I went to the carrier site this time, this date, and they were approved, that they ended up not being on the hook for an E&O claim because they can show that they actually went out and did this online.
Yeah, so there's a landmark case that's, I can't remember what state it's in front of right now, that basically, whatever state it was, it's slipping my mind, they have the opportunity to add a vehicle with no liability. So you can just check a box and it doesn't give liability. Unfortunately, that's how it was bound, and there was a death. So the policy had no liability limits. And the person who did it, the account executive who did it, wrote a beautiful log note saying that I'm adding this card, these are the coverages that I'm adding, da 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 da. And the courts are saying, it doesn't matter what you write in your log note, prove it. So by going out to this HawkLink tool and bringing back in your binding documents, your bound endorsement, your bound application, it's just covering yourself. Because if there's a $500,000 loss, whose side is the carrier going to take? They're going to take their own. They're going to say that it wasn't done properly, no matter what you put in the log note.
Any questions at this point, or anything
Comments?
we covered? Comments? I think we're like 10 minutes early. Amanda?
What are some tips for getting your employees to be more precise in their questions? Do you provide quote sheets, or is it more of the training that you're providing?
You want me to take it, or you want?
Sure.
So I think what she was saying is, how do we help our employees or our staff do a better job in quoting, whether it's giving them it boils, with the initial phone call? Well, I think there's a couple of things you can do. I think one, Peggy alluded to earlier, is training. And training them and being consistent and doing it the same way every time. So role playing, whether it's in the office, there's also companies you can hire that can actually do role playing with staff members to do that. But I think giving them the tools, the training, but then the tools themselves. Again, you as an office decide, are we paperless? Are we want paper, not paperless? What are you comfortable with? And to me, sure, I'd love everything paperless, but then again, who cares? As long as it's getting done and we're doing it in the same manner. And what I liked about some of the quote sheets that Peggy shared with us is just what she was saying is, it's one thing just to rattle off 15 questions, boom, 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 then you sound like you're an order taker, where if you can turn it into more of that conversational piece and talking to them, where you're asking some questions and then kind of getting a little bit personal and asking them kind of a side note, oh, you're having a baby, is it a boy or a girl, or whatever, but just kind of, again, making them get to know and like you more, and making it more, like I said, more of a conversation versus just an order taking. That's what I personally, we are trying to do. I can't say we do that. We're still learning. But that's what we're trying to do, is give them specific quote sheets that they can kind of go down through. But again, break up that quote sheet that gives you some additional questions that kind of helps through that process.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So when you're using, do you have any advice when you use something like this as a training tool for your staff? So say for instance, are you only using this when a new staff member comes in as part of your initial onboarding, or are you using it as a check with your existing CSRs?
So the question is, do you just use these type of tools when somebody is onboarding, or is it ongoing? My opinion, I think you're going to
Me?
Yeah, it's
ongoing.
ongoing.
We're always trying to improve. And again, this is not picking on anyone on any staff, but everybody, we get lazy. We're humans. We get lazy over time. So to me, of course, onboarding is extremely important. But at the same time, if you can take even a seasoned CSR or someone that, if you're looking at their activity and maybe your closes aren't, or you're not getting enough quotes, or, whatever, you might see some deficiencies, having them go through this and learn from it. And again, this is to me, it's a learning tool. This is not criticizing them.
Do you address it as individually to the CSR, or do you use it as a team learning environment? Again, I'm asking from a cultural standpoint.
Yeah.
Of the continuing training, and because I can see where something like this could be incredibly nitpicky for a CSR that may turn them off from
No, I get it. I would say we're a smaller office, with 5 employees. So, I think that's a read as the owner to say, okay, what kind of a group do I have? Is someone to get really upset that I'm sharing this. Now, we specifically talked to our staff member about this and said, we're going to share it, and this is this is hopefully helping a lot of people and that sort of stuff. But I guess and I feel free to have others chime in. I know for us, because we're such a small office, we said, hey, do you mind if we share this? And we literally went through it with Peggy and with all staff, so that way everyone could listen to it and kind of critique ourselves and just use it as a learning tool.
We held a Thursday staff meeting. Every Thursday, we'd all get together. We would have the phones off. We'd have our cup of coffee. And we would go over different things like this. And we would listen to phone calls in front of the whole team. And that's just how we worked, and it worked well for us. But by doing that, we always had a positive, and then we'd have the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we'd always try to bring in one of each to show them where you shined and where we need to make improvement. We had a lot of success with that.
And if you think about that too, if I know the team's going to be listening to this, it makes me want to step my game up in a sense. So again, you have to be careful. You have to know your team. So I can see where it can go both ways. But so there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. It's really understanding the culture. I think there's two hands. There's one here.
Within our agency, we randomly select a couple phone calls a month to be graded, and they're just selected at random, but the way that we've kind of made it is if you get a certain grade, then you get like a gift card or something. So you know it's coming, but it's just one of those things where everyone gets excited, like, oh my gosh, I got a gift card today, I was doing a good job. But it's great we notice better calls and things that are not being missed just because they know they're going to be graded on it possibly.
So do you share that?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so I had an agency that I started off with, like Dirk, and I started off doing mystery shopping. And he just said, can you just do it once a week? I'm like, they're going to know my voice. I mean, well, how can I do that? I only have so many people on my team that can be doing this. He goes, I don't care. He goes, they are responding better than ever. Every phone call, you'll see there's a flyer up here, what I call, it should be your every quote call. This is what it should sound like. He goes, we're doing that now. They know you're calling in, but they're terrified they are going to get you on the phone, so they want to make sure every call is good. So
do you discuss like the results with people, or just kind of give that out so they?
Here and there, maybe like a positive and a negative, but they're not necessarily like secret shopper calls. It's actually pulling
a real phone call. Yeah.
I love the idea though,
Yeah.
but again, that helps you as the owner to make sure things are getting done, and also helps them learn. And like you said, I think they know there's a potential carrot there if they do a good job. So,
Yeah.
I think there was another hand.
they can touch on what I would say.
Oh, okay.
So you also having a smaller staff in your office, do you regularly secret shop for these things?
We haven't. We had Peggy do hers. We probably need to do another one now that we supposedly, again, holding ourselves accountable, have a process in place for doing it. Literally, we have it from the intake, and following through, and actually once we quote it and we set new suspenses, and if we don't talk to the person, there's an email and a phone call that's getting done, and that's part of us as quote unquote ownership that straight up, we need to do a better job of it. Like I said, we're not inspecting what we expect, and that's shame on us for not doing that. So I think that's something that we don't think we need to do a better job of, is going in there and doing just that. I love the idea, pull 2 to 3, and hey, whoever gets score over X, and we'll use the same scoring system that Peggy gave to us. If it's over a 75 or an 80, you get a $50, $10 gift card, whatever it is. But to me, if you think about it, even if it's $20, $25, I mean, it's nominal for you, but your business, the amount of business you're going to write between the cross-selling and everything else will definitely, we'll pay for that thing in tenfold over time. So
Dirk had no opportunity to close the sale with us. She never sent us a quote. So, I mean, just, going up from there, and, obviously your closing ratio is going to go much higher. Question in the back? She did send us a form and some questions, which we responded to, but we never got the end result.
There's a couple of things. The CSRs have to understand there's a cost to that phone call coming in. So there's a value that's built into that call.
Yep, absolutely.
So we talk about that. We talk about the reputation of the person that's referring, and how they talk to them and how they set everything up is important. And it's also match the caller. If the caller just rushing through and wants you to give me a quote right away, give me this, it's probably a person that you don't want to have. I'd rather give them experience, give them something where it slows it down. They can call any other agency and have that, fast talking, here's quick, blah, blah, blah. But if you give them an experience, they're gonna wanna trust you and come back to you. And even in some cases when it's much more money than what they would have spent over there, because you gave them experience, you gave them first-class experience, but you're paying the same price that you would with any other person.
It has been proven that clients will pay more for the better experience and value. And isn't that why we all are independent agents?
I mean, people buy from people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely 100% right. I mean, you are creating an experience, and again, that gets back to that conversation and getting to know them. And I forget, we had one just the other day where we were talking to someone. She's like, no one's ever. I've owned a house for 15 years, whatever, 20 years, and she moved her business to us. She goes, no one ever took the time to explain what these coverages. I just assumed we had the right coverages. And to take those extra couple minutes just more solidifies the reason why they came to your agency. And so I think you're spot on. So how much time do we have left? We've got about 5 minutes left. Was this helpful for everybody?
Good.
I mean, any additional questions? Like I said, we talked about external tools and some things like that. If you have questions, just stop us on the way out. I can show you where to go. Obviously, there's a Hug Lab. And the labs, I know a lot of people don't really understand what they're for. I mean, you literally can take your laptop down there and they'll set up those external tools for you right now or show you how to do that. Some of the things that Peggy set up for us, whether it's different suspenses and things like that, have been phenomenal to really help the flow of our quote process and the procedures, because it really holds our staff accountable. And going in there, like my wife and I, we go in now and you can see what they're doing. We have, I don't know if you realize, but under reports, you have that activity report. And you can go in there, and the average, I think you told us, the average CSR should be putting in there, what, 60 to 80?
50 to 75 activities per day, a really busy agency. So my account executives were putting in about over 100 activities a day. And not because they were busier than yours, they were just using the system. Everything, if it wasn't in HawkSoft, it did not exist.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, sir.
Three things real quick. I know you only got a couple minutes. First thing is, if you guys put agency standards in place, meaning if everyone knows that our agency standard is 100, 300 or it's 5,500 or whatever your standard is, then when your staff is talking about it, they won't ever wonder, should I cross-sell? They won't ever wonder, should I mention this? Because the agency standard is 100, 300, and when the customer says, I only want 5,100, well, our agency standard is 100, 300. So if you take something below that, then I need you to sign a form. That's how we use our decline company. I need you to sign this form. I'll be more than happy to give it to you if that's what you want. But I need you to sign a form if we decide to go forward with this that just says you understand that's not what we recommend. And then the second thing is teaching your people consequences. So if you do take this and you have a claim, you have to understand normally where you have $100,000 to help you out in this uninsured motorist or whatever, you're only going to have 50, and that's minus your legal fees. So you may only end up with 10. So if your people start talking consequences of taking these coverages that your agency doesn't recommend, that'll make your non-salespeople stronger. Because then they won't feel like they're selling, they'll feel like they're just explaining the consequences of the decisions that customers are making.
Outstanding point. In our agency on homes, we don't quote under $2,500 deductible. We don't want them putting in, the $500 claim, $1,000. Yes, it's money, and of course, you have to be able to pallet a $2,500 deductible. But when statistics say the average homeowner puts a claim in every 8 to 10 years, it's pretty easy to sell a $2,500 deductible. Same thing we said earlier on that. Even Kayla tried a soft upsell about $250. When we quote a house, we quote $250, $500 because we know we're going to quote an umbrella policy. We say we can offer this lower, but here's the reasons why. And we talk about it. I mean, that basic story I told about the umbrella policy. Honestly, nobody has said no. I mean, they think about it like, yeah, I mean, for $15 a month for not going to Starbucks once or twice during that, week or whatever it is, pays for that umbrella policy to have that peace of mind. It's a story sell. I mean, that's it. We all know that. Stories sell.
Do you templates in HawkSoft when you send out your quotes, so there's a breakdown of the coverages for your home, your auto, and then some type of verbiage to explain the umbrella?
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, and so I don't know if you're aware, HawkSoft does beautiful proposals outside within the HawkSoft system. So if you're looking for proposals, they do refer most of the proposal writing to us. I have several samples at our booth. So to your point, yeah, the proposals can come out with all the coverages. So again, garbage in, garbage out, it's only as good as what you put in. And then you can include your story up front, your waivers in the back, I mean, whatever you want to do. So it includes a cover letter, a coverage portion, and then a post letter. So to your answer, yes, we always did.
And I will say one thing about the quotes, video, video, video. The statistics show that if you do a video proposal versus just sending out a hard copy, huge difference in your close ratios. Huge difference. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I know you said you're teaching a class on this too, but the quote sheet in HawkSoft, is that something that you drag it into the client's file as you're talking to them, like it's on your desktop or whatever, and you drag it in each time, or it's already in HawkSoft?
Oh, the working documents?
Yeah, the quote sheet.
So there's two ways you can go about it. You can have as an external tool, which is what Dirk has chosen to do. So that you open it up as an external tool. You can fill it out there, virtual print it in. If you want to use it as a working document, then the answer is yes, you have to drag and drop it in. I usually set up most of my agents as the agency is in HawkSoft, okay? And you can keep a library of all your documents within HawkSoft and then use the copy and paste function and just paste it into the client's file. Yes.
Last one.
I didn't hear the question.
I'm sorry. Someone online, something about the email proposal, email.
Yes,
So-
you can.
With
Yeah.
Peggy, yeah, I think her email is on the second slide. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, and again, this is where you can go, this recording, all the webinars, that sort of stuff, you can get that. If you go online, this whole presentation will be there. Like I said, all the handouts will be there as well. Any other questions?
And here's the contact information
There
for
you
both
have it.
Dirk and I.
Boom.
Boom.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. It's 3 o'clock. Have a great time, and please network. Go out and talk to the vendors. They're all here. That's how the vendors are the reasons why we can keep the price down so low on the cost to come out to these things. Other conferences are a lot more expensive, so please visit the vendors. And thank you for attending, and thanks for all the great feedback.
Thank you, everyone.